What's happening around the world
and what's happening here at home.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Umitra Bekun. Let's start off with a look at our headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
CID completes probe into Ranil's UK trip funded by public money. Seeks Attorney General's advice. Did Sugishwara receive 2 salaries? Gotabaya statements raise questions. Bodies of officers killed in Negombo prison violence brought to Valikada. Farmer representatives take land grievances to opposition leader. Record-breaking Messi fires Argentina into World Cup quarter-finals.
In our top story for tonight, the Criminal Investigation Department today informed the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court that investigations into the case filed against former President Ranil Vikramasinghe and former Presidential Secretary Saman Ekanayake over an alleged private visit to the United Kingdom using public funds have been concluded and that the relevant investigation extracts have been forwarded to the Attorney General.
The case was taken up before the Colombo Fort Magistrate Pasan Amarasena. Former President Ranil Vikramasinghe appeared before the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today, accompanied by his wife Maitri Vikramasinghe. Several former members of Parliament and former ministers were also present at court. Senior State Counsel Samadari Piyasena informed court that investigations relating to the incident had been completed and that the relevant extracts had been submitted to the Attorney General. She requested a day to inform court of the Attorney General's position on the matter. At that stage, President's Counsel Anuja Premaratna, appearing on behalf of Ranil Vikramasinghe, stated that investigators had claimed that nearly half of the total expenditure forming the basis of the case had been incurred on vehicles. However, the President's Counsel maintained that the vehicles used during the visit had been provided by the British government. He further stated that he would hand over in open court a document detailing the arrangements made by the British government in relation to the provision of those vehicles and requested that an investigation be conducted into the matter. After considering the submissions, Colombo Fort Magistrates Pasan Amarasena fixed 30th of September for the next hearing and directed the State Counsel to inform court of the Attorney General's position on that date. The case was filed by the Criminal Investigation Department against former President Ranil Vikramasinghe and his former Secretary Saman Ekanayake over allegations that 16.6 million rupees in public funds had been utilized for a private visit to the United Kingdom. Former Minister Jagat Pushpakumara, who was arrested by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption over corruption-related allegations, was today ordered to be released on 2 personal bail bonds of 5 million rupees each by the Colombo Chief Magistrate Asanga S. Bodragama. The magistrate also imposed an overseas travel ban on the suspect and directed the court registrar to inform the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration accordingly. Former Minister Jagat Pushpakumara was arrested and produced before court after arriving at the Bribery Commission this morning to provide a statement. The case has been filed in relation to 3 separate allegations against him. One allegation relates to the expenditure of 2,665,000 rupees after allegedly instructing the Chilao Plantations Company and Kurunagala Plantations Company to print 250,000 posters and leaflets intended to raise public awareness of government development projects, while the 2014 Uva Provincial Council election had already been declared. A second allegation concerns the expenditure of more than 6 million rupees from the two plantation companies to purchase 10,000 clothing packs during the 2015 presidential election period, purportedly for distribution as flood relief, without following the proper procurement procedure. The Bribery Commission informed court that investigations had revealed that the clothing packs in question had never actually been distributed. The suspect also faces allegations of influencing officials to provide 2,000 t-shirts and 1,500 saris from the Chilau Plantations Company, as well as 2,000 t-shirts and 1,500 saris from the Kurunagala Plantations Company for distribution among participants attending May Day rallies in 2013 and 2014.
Furthermore, the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today ordered the remand of Sugishwara Bandara, the former personal secretary to former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, until the 22nd of July over allegations relating to the criminal misappropriation of funds allocated under the presidential expenditure head. The case was taken up before Colombo Fort Magistrate Pasan Amarasena.
The magistrate had rejected a previous bail application filed on behalf of the suspect during the last hearing and ordered that he remain in remand custody. Excerpt. Magistrate Pasan Amarasena.
The prosecution has submitted facts indicating that more than 220 million rupees has allegedly been misused in the division where the suspect served as Director of Special Projects. The prosecution has also presented sufficient material before court indicating that approximately 135 employees were recruited on a contract basis due to political affiliations and that partisan political activities had been carried out within the institution. As investigations are still ongoing, bail cannot be granted to the suspect under Section 115(1) of the Code of Criminal Procedure Act number 15 of 1979 and the provisions of the Public Property Act number 12 of 1982. Accordingly, the suspect is ordered to be remanded.
End of excerpt. During the proceedings, investigators updated the court on the progress of the inquiry, stating that a further statement had been recorded yesterday from former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa following a request for additional clarification regarding the incident. Excerpt.
The former president in his latest statement said that the suspect had not been paid a salary or allowances in relation to his role as personal secretary. He further stated that the money allocated for those salary and allowance payments from the presidential expenditure head had instead been handed over in cash to another individual. In his initial statement, he had stated that the suspect did not receive any salary or allowances related to the position and had retained the money for personal use. However, in the statement recorded yesterday, he stated that the money had been given in cash to another person. We are taking steps to record a statement from the relevant individual.
End of excerpt. The magistrate also questioned investigators as to whether a detailed report had been prepared regarding the alleged political activities carried out through the Special Projects Division. Responding to the inquiry, investigators said examinations into that aspect of the case were still ongoing. Excerpt.
Statements have been recorded from 3 individuals who served as directors of the division. During those interviews, it was revealed that although all 3 served as directors of the same division, they did not even know one another. We still have to record statements from around 120 additional officers.
End of excerpt. The case has been filed alleging that between the 14th of July 2022 and the 21st of December 2024, Sugishwara Bandara served as the personal secretary to former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and later as the Director of Special Projects under former President Ranil Vikramasinghe, and that salary and allowance payments obtained from funds allocated under the presidential expenditure head had been misused. The matter is scheduled to be called again on the 22nd of July. Another prison officer injured in the violent clash between 2 groups linked to drug trafficking and organized crime inside the Negombo prison has succumbed to his injuries. The deceased officer had been receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital after sustaining critical injuries during the violence.
With the latest fatality, the number of prison officers killed in the incident has risen to 8. The overall death toll from the Negombo prison violence has now climbed to 29, comprising 8 prison officers and 21 inmates.
Scenes of grief, heartbreak and anger unfolded at the Valikada Prison Training College today as the bodies of 7 prison officers killed in the deadly violence at Negombo prison were brought for fellow officers and the family members to pay their final respects. The remains of Sergeants RPR Sanjeeva, BNN Tharanga, TNR Tilakasiri, DW Pushpakumara, SDS Abhewardhana and AD Tharanga, along with Chief Jailer SHG Chandravansa, were brought to the training academy this morning before being handed over to their families. Relatives and fellow prison officers gathered in large numbers to pay tribute to the fallen officers, with emotional scenes witnessed throughout the ceremony. Minister of Justice Harshana Nanayakkara and Ministry Secretary President's Council Ayesha Jinasena also attended to pay their respects to the deceased officers. After the final tributes, the bodies were formally handed over to their relatives.
අපි සර් මේ නිලැඳු මැදගත්තේ සර් අපි වෙනම ඒකකයක් විදියට සර් මේ පිට යන්නේ මොනවද සර් උපරිම සාධාරණීය කරනවා අපි සර් අපි ජාතික වීරයෙ සර් ඌ නැතුව හිටියා නම් සර් අද ඌ 1500 කට එළියට ආව නම් සර් ඉවරයි මුළු නිලධාරී තරක් නෙවෙයි ජනතාවත් ඉවරයි සර් ඒ නිලධාරියව බේරලා දෙන්න සර් සර් මේ සර් කිව්වොත් අපි ඌ මරණීය චේතනාවෙන් නෙවෙයි වෙඩි තියන්නේ සර් අන්න සර් ඇතුළට දාලා බීමට වෙඩි තියන්නේ මේ කිසි දෙයක් අහගන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ කිසිදු අසාධාරණයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ ඉෂ්ට කරනවා ආ පොඩක් නිය පොත්තෙන් කඩන්න තිබු දේ සර් මේක අපිට ඕඩර්ස් එක දුන්නා නම් නවත්තන්න කියලා හිරකාරයෝ මිනිස්සු අතර තිරසන්නු ඉන්නවා සර් හැමදේම තිරසන්නු නෙමෙයි සර් අපේ මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා.
Meanwhile, 2 inmates transferred to Busa and Angunukula Palace prisons following the Negombo prison violence have also died. Prisons Department spokesperson AC Gajanayaka said 1 inmate transferred to Busa prison died after being admitted to the National Hospital in Galle due to illness. 36 individuals injured in the Negombo prison violence continue to receive treatment at the Negombo District General Hospital, with 3 of them receiving treatment in intensive care. A further 20 inmates who had been receiving treatment at the Negombo hospital have been transferred to the Valikadu Prison Hospital. The director of the Negombo hospital said post-mortem examinations have been completed on 23 deceased victims and their bodies have been handed over to relatives. Investigations are also continuing into the death of an Indian national who was among those killed in the violence. Authorities said the Indian national had been held in remand custody in connection with allegations of bringing a stock of narcotic substance known as Kush into Sri Lanka.
The government of Sri Lanka has officially established the Mahamodara prison through an extraordinary gazette issued under the provisions of Prisons Ordinance. The extraordinary gazette was issued by the Ministry of Justice and National Integration Harshna Nanayakara. When inquired, prison spokesperson A.C. Gajanayaka said that steps will be taken to transfer inmates there after strengthening the security arrangements.
The United Nations has welcomed the Sri Lankan government's decision to appoint an independent committee to investigate the circumstances surrounding the deadly violence at the Negombo prison, expressing hope that the findings will lead to meaningful and lasting reforms within the country's prison system. In a statement issued following the incident, the United Nations resident coordinator expressed profound sorrow over the violence at Negombo prison this week.
The United Nations extended its deepest condolences to the families of those who lost their lives and wished a speedy and full recovery to those injured in the incident. Highlighting the sacrifices made by correctional officers, the UN noted that prison officials carry out difficult and demanding duties in service of the state and the public, and that their loss is deeply felt. The statement also stressed that inmates who died or sustained injuries were under the care and protection of the state, emphasizing that both prison personnel and those held in custody deserve greater protection. According to the United Nations, ensuring such protection remains a fundamental responsibility of the state. The organization further noted that the tragedy has once again highlighted the urgent need for continued investment in Sri Lanka's prison system. Overcrowding, outdated practices and poor detention conditions have long been identified as major challenges affecting prison systems both in Sri Lanka and around the world. Welcoming the establishment of the independent committee, the United Nations underscored the importance of ensuring that its findings contribute to concrete improvements in prison management, safety measures and detention conditions. The global body reaffirmed its commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's efforts in this area through technical cooperation, including initiatives aimed at strengthening prison safety, improving conditions within detention facilities and enhancing the well-being of correctional personnel.
Opposition MPs led by the Samagi Janabalawekya arrived in Parliament today wearing black armbands in protest against the government over the deadly violence at Negombo prison. However, the black armbands worn by the MPs during the morning session were noticeably absent later in the afternoon. A fresh dispute also erupted in Parliament after opposition leader Sajith Premadasa once again raised the Negombo prison incident as a matter of privilege. Government MPs objected, accusing the opposition leader of violating standing orders.
තත්ත්වය පාලනය කිරීම සඳහා පොලිස් විශේෂකාර්ය බලකාය පොලිසිය හෝ වෙනත් ආරක්ෂක අංශ මැදිහත් කිරීමට නියෝගය ලබා දුන්නේ කවුරුන්ද? එම නියෝගය ලබා දීම සඳහා පැවති නීතිමය ප්‍රතිපාදන කවරේද? එම නියෝග නිසි කලට ලබා දුන්නේ. මෙම සිදුවීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ස්වාධීන අපක්ෂපාතී සහ විනිවිද භාවයෙන් යුත් විමර්ශනයක් සිදු කර එහි වාර්තාව මෙම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට කරන්නේ.
මම දැනගන්නට කැමතියි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා මේ ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ වරප්‍රසාද ප්‍රශ්නයක්ද 27/2ක්ද මොකක්ද මේ කරුණ කියන එක?
ගරු අමාත්‍යතුමා මම ගරු නායකතුමාට ඉදිරිපත් කරපු දේ තමයි මම මේ කියන්නේ. වරප්‍රසාද ප්‍රශ්න.
මම කියනවා ඔබතුමාට මේක සහ මුලින්ම වැරදි.
I must tell you that what has been done here today is completely improper. There is an accepted parliamentary procedure regarding adjournment debates. In some instances, once such a debate has been held, a similar matter is not taken up again even for a year. Yesterday, we allocated 3 hours for this discussion. Under the standing orders, only 2 hours, or actually 1.5 hours, are required. We gave 3 hours and debated the matter. After all of that, what is this being done today?
අද මොකක්ද මේ කරන්නේ?
සභානායකතුමා සිළු දෙනාම නොමග යවන සුළු විදියටයි මගේ ප්‍රකාශයේ අර්ථ දැක්වී විනාඩිය. මම ප්‍රශ්නයෙන් ඇහුවේ නිශ්චිත කරුණු කාරණා, නිශ්චිත දත්ත, නිශ්චිත සංඛ්‍යාලයක, නිශ්චිත පිළිතුරු.
මට අවසර දීලා එතුමා ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා. එතකොට අප ස්ථාර නියෝග සහ මේ පනතන අනුව අපි පැහැදිලිව කියනවා ඒක තමයි අපිට තිබෙන අයිතිය. ඒක වැරදි කියලා ස්ථාර නියෝග වලට. ඒ නිසා අපි ඔබතුමාගේ ඉල්ලා සිටින මේක අධ්‍යයනය කළා රූලින් එකක් දෙන්න කියලා.
කතානායකතුමනි, සභානායකතුමා කියනවා ඒක වැරදි කියලා, අපි කියනවා ඒක හරි කියලා.
හොඳ අපි ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු
මේ විහිළුවට ඉඩ දෙන්න එපා.
Do not allow this farce to continue. A matter of privilege is being used to raise issues that belong under Standing Order 27(2), and everything related to that subject is being read out in Parliament. Who is supposed to answer these questions? Is it the Speaker? It does not matter if someone acts like a comedian outside Parliament, but such behaviour should not be allowed inside Parliament.
Leader of the House Bimal Ratnayaka responded in Parliament to a statement made by Samagi Janabalawege MP SM Marika.
If we review the past 22 months, what remains at the end are the lies that were told and the people who were misled. When the last budget was presented, we were told that economic growth would be brought up to 7% this year. That has not happened. The International Monetary Fund has forecast economic growth of 3% this year. The World Bank has projected it at 3.1%. The Asian Development Bank has projected 4% this year and 4.2% next year. In 2026, our GDP growth is expected to remain between 3 and 4%. India's growth is projected at 6.9%, while the regional average stands at 6.3%. This is the result of bringing in so-called walking libraries. This year, inflation in our country will rise from 5.2% to 6.8%, while India remains at 4% and many other countries in the region are performing better than us. No matter what stories are told, no matter what fairy tales are presented, and no matter how beautifully they are packaged, the people understand the reality on the ground. I say very clearly that whether it is the economy, society or cultural affairs, this government must abandon its arrogance and superiority complex. There is no real greatness here, only an imagined one. If they listened fairly to those working in their respective sectors and took their views into account, much more could have been achieved. With that reminder, I conclude my remarks. Thank you.
according to the World Bank
I do not know. Those figures came from a dream book or somewhere else. According to the World Bank Regional Outlook, Sri Lanka has sustained a steady macroeconomic recovery path, showing resilient expansion despite recent localized climate challenges. GDP growth stands at 5.1%. The report compares the first quarter of 2025 with the first quarter of 2026 and records 5.1% growth. You also claimed other countries were doing better than us. Bangladesh and Pakistan are recorded at 4.1% growth. Then there were comments about inflation. The reports published so far cover only the first quarter of 2026. India's inflation was 2.74% in January, 3.21% in February and 3.4% in March. Sri Lanka recorded 2.3% in January, 1.6% in February and 2.2% in March. The rest of the region, including Pakistan and Bangladesh, has been experiencing a gradual easing compared to the severe double-digit shocks of previous fiscal years. That is why I say the figures are straight from a dream book.
මගේ මූලාශ්‍රය නම් කෝපරේට් ෆයිනෑන්ස් එක මෙච්චර යොමිලි පිටින්. එතුමාට කියන්නේ මූලාශ්‍රය කියන්න කියලා මූලාශ්‍රය.
මම පිස්සන් අවසන්නේ නැහැ.
I do not provoke mad people. I never mentioned anyone by name. Another point. You spoke about superiority complexes, arrogance and conceit. Yet the same people describe members of parliament elected by the people as doormats and coconut husks. Then what are you? Are you some kind of golden carpet from an Arabian fairy tale? We do not get agitated even when others do. You stand up here calling us arrogant, while at the same time insulting MPs elected by the people. Since I entered Parliament in 2000, I have respected every elected member of Parliament. MP Chamra Sampath has court cases, but he is an elected member. As a fellow parliamentarian, I will do everything I can for him. There are many MPs facing legal cases, but we do not judge them by their vote count or preference votes. We know how to respect members of Parliament. This morning, we saw a group wearing black armbands. We would like to know whether we should wear them too, or were they worn because members of party's working committee are in prison? And if so, why were they removed later? That is why we think about them the way we do. We have been in the opposition before. We have worked together with MPs and ministers. We have never mocked a member of parliament or a prime minister based on their academic qualifications or mannerisms. This is some kind of psychological condition. Since you are a doctor, please open a clinic inside parliament and provide treatment for these patients. One should look at the body language in that speech. Look at that body language. These are the people we are dealing with. All I can say is this: if the people are listening, may they bless us with a reasonable and rational opposition and remove these people from the scene.
A group of farmer representatives met opposition leader Sugishwara Bandara at the Parliamentary complex today. During the discussion, the representatives stressed the need for a guaranteed minimum price of 140 rupees per kilogram of paddy. A group identified themselves as representatives of the National Farmers Unity, Joint State Farmers Organizations and Mahaveli Farmers Organizations met the opposition leader at the Parliamentary complex this morning.
දැන් ඔබතුමාට කුඹුරු අක්කර කීයක් තියෙනවද?
මගේ අක්කර දෙකමාරක් තියෙනවා. ඒක මම වැඩ කරන්නේ නැතුනට මගේ මල්ලි තමයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. වීපත්තර දීලා තියෙන්නේ. හොඳේ කවුරු හරි කියනම නම් අපිට කුඹුරු නැහැ මෙහෙම කියලා. හැබැයි දැන් අහන්නේ මුරුත්තට්ටුවේ ආනන්ද හාමුදුරුවෝ එද සංගමේ සභාපතිලා හිටියේ නර්ස් කෙනෙක්ද? එතකොට ලාල්කාන්ත කුෂිකර්ම මැතිතුරුනේ ගොවිතැන් කරලාද? එතකොට නාමල් කරනවත් මොකද කරපු වැඩ කරපු කුඹුර? කුඹුරු අක්කර කීයක්ද ඔබතුමාට කියන්න ඕනේ මාව.
නෑ ඉතින් මට කියන්න ඕනේ.
ඔව් ඒක තමයි මේ ලංකාවේ මිනිසුන්ට මම අක්කර 20ක් ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න එපා. අනිත් කටෙන් ගන්න බීමිල ගන්න ප්‍රශ්න. මම අක්කර 20ක් වගා කරන ගොවියෙක්. මම අක්කර 20ක් වගා කරනවා. මේ මහත්යෝ මෙන්න මේක අහගන්න.
අක්කර ගන්න ඇහුවම කේන්ති යන්නේ.
මේ නෑ අපිට කේන්ති යන්නේ.
The group later met with the opposition leader Sugishwara Bandara.
We will fight on behalf of the farming community whenever necessary. We will raise these issues in Parliament. We will speak up in Parliament. But beyond that, we need a clear policy framework. The question is, if not this, what exactly are we going to do?
Right.
වැඩේ සාර්ථකයි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා බාරගත්තා වැඩේ සාර්ථකයි
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ වී වලට 140 අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපිට දෙන්න අනිවාර්යෙන් නොදුන්නොත් මේ රටේ ගොවි ජනතාවත් එක්ක අනිවාර්යෙන් මහපාට බැලලා පාරෙන් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳ ගන්නවා.
A public debate has emerged in recent days regarding the proposal to extend the retirement age of judges in Sri Lanka. Against the backdrop of this discussion, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka organised a seminar in Colombo over the weekend to examine the issue and its implications for the country's judiciary.
Meanwhile, former chairperson of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka and retired chair professor of law at the University of Peradeniya, Deepika Udagama, who participated in the seminar, has issued a further clarification regarding remarks attributed to her and subsequently broadcasted by Newsfirst.
An excerpt from the letter submitted by Dr. Deepika Udagama.
In the excerpt of my presentation telecasting the above newscasts with considerable prominence, I am stating that no one has objections to extending the age of retirement of judges. I made that statement to elaborate on the main position I took regarding the issue, that is that such an extension of the age of retirement of judges should not be made via an ad hoc constitutional amendment focusing on sitting judges, and that too only relating to Court of Appeal and Supreme Court justices. I pointed out such a move is bound to have a negative impact on judicial independence by creating an impression of compromising judicial integrity. I went on to say that if the proposed constitutional amendment is adopted, it would amount to a violation of the social contract forged between the people and the government in 2024, as it would be an anti-democratic measure that runs counter to the expectation of system change demanded by the voters. Similarly, I pointed out that such a course of action would also violate international law obligations of Sri Lanka on judicial independence, thereby attracting the scrutiny of the UN Human Rights Council and the European Union regarding the GSP plus tariff concessions. My recommendation was that reforms regarding the judiciary should be contemplated after broad-based consultations, particularly leading to the adoption of a new constitution that has been promised by the NPP manifesto of 2024.
End of excerpt.
Watch the FIFA World Cup live, where the best football teams in the world compete. Live matches, Rewind TV, highlights, reels. Watch it all for free. Download the Pure mobile app now. Watch the FIFA World Cup live. where the best football teams in the world compete. Live matches, Rewind TV, highlights, reels. Watch it all for free. Download the Pure mobile app now.
Weather first.
The Department of Meteorology issued an advisory warning of strong winds and rough sea conditions affecting several parts of Sri Lanka.
Viara Virakon has more details on the weather.
Thank you, Bomitra and Sandhara. Now, according to the Department of Meteorology, the Met Department has issued an advisory warning of strong winds and rough sea conditions in several sea areas around Sri Lanka. According to the advisory, wind speeds in the sea areas extending off the coast from Kankasantare to Putlam Vamana and from Hambantota to Pothuil could increase to between 50 and 60 kilometers per hour. The department has also issued a separate warning regarding strong winds affecting various parts of the country. Now, meteorologists say the prevailing active southwest monsoon is expected to generate strong winds at times with speeds of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour across the central, Sabaragamuwa, northern, north central and northwestern provinces as well as the Hambantota and Trincomalee districts.
The Stop Dengue Now National Dengue Eradication Program continued across the Western Province today.
The Stop Dengue Now National Dengue Eradication Program is organized jointly by the Maharaja Media Network led by Newsfirst and the Ministry of Health and Mass Media, focusing on the Colombo, Kaluthara and Gampaha districts. Today, the Stop Dengue Now program in the Colombo district was carried out covering the Hangwella and Avisavella MOH divisions. In the Gampaha district, awareness programs were conducted today in Siduwa. Another phase of the Stop Dengue Now National Dengue Eradication Program was held today in Panadura of the Kaluthara district.
Watch the FIFA World Cup live, where the best football teams in the world compete. Live matches, Rewind TV, highlights, reels. Watch it all for free. Download the Pure mobile app now. Watch the FIFA World Cup live, where the best football teams in the world compete. Live matches, Rewind TV, highlights, reels. Watch it all for free. Download the Pure mobile app now.
Welcome back to the news. The 2026 World Investment Report by the United Nations has shown that Sri Lanka is rebounding in the global investment race.
Sri Lanka attracted more than $1 billion in foreign direct investment in 2025, marking a significant increase from the previous year and highlighting renewed investor confidence despite a challenging global investment environment, according to the latest World Investment Report 2026 released by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. The report shows that Sri Lanka's FDI inflows increased to $1.044 billion in 2025, up from $759 million recorded in 2024. The latest figure represents the country's highest annual FDI inflow since 2022 and reflects growing foreign investment activity at a time when international investors are becoming increasingly selective amid geopolitical tensions, trade uncertainties and shifting global supply chains. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, global FDI rose by 6% in 2025 to reach $1.6 trillion. However, much of that growth was concentrated in a limited number of countries and strategic sectors such as artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, semiconductors, clean energy and critical minerals. The report notes that Sri Lanka's inward FDI stock also continued to expand, rising to $18.23 billion in 2025 from $16.6 billion in 2024, indicating a steady increase in long-term foreign investment assets held within the country. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's outward FDI stock reached $1.8 billion in 2025, reflecting growing overseas investment activity by Sri Lankan entities. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development observed global investment expansion was driven largely by a small number of mega projects, particularly infrastructure related to artificial intelligence. Across most sectors, new project activity is subdued, reflecting heightened investor uncertainty amid geopolitical tensions, trade policy volatility, the rising cost of capital, and intensifying technological competition.
The central question then is not how much investment crosses borders. The question is where it goes, what it builds, and who it benefits. A higher FDI number is welcome, but it doesn't automatically mean stronger development impacts. A growing share of global investments is moving into sectors linked to future growth and technological competition, and these include AI infrastructure, semiconductors, critical minerals, energy transition technologies. Developing countries do not need to compete everywhere. They need realistic entry points into the investment landscape of the future. This is not simply about attracting more investment. It is about attracting investment that supports development, resilience, and domestic value creation. For developing countries, international cooperation, investment partnerships, and risk-sharing mechanisms can help create conditions that individual countries cannot build alone. UNCTAD's role is to help countries understand these changes and turn investment trends into development choices.
A new skills centre designed to develop skills and innovation was opened at Carey College, Colombo today.
Carey College, Colombo today opened its new skills centre, a modern learning space designed to foster practical skills, creativity and innovation among students. The skills centre is a pioneering initiative introduced under the guidance of Principal Dr. Thomas Benjamin Jagannathan, with the objective of moving beyond traditional classroom-based education and creating an environment focused on collaboration, problem-solving and real-world skills development. The project was undertaken by the Carey College Old Boys Union under the leadership of its president, Mervyn Ponnaya.
World News.
US President Donald Trump says an interim agreement to end the war with Iran was over after Tehran carried out new attacks on US bases in the Gulf. In a flare-up of hostilities that pushed oil prices up sharply, Iran said it had targeted US military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait after US forces struck Iranian targets in response to attacks on tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
Jama Ratnayaka brings us the latest.
Thank you very much, Soumitra and Sandru, and a very good evening to everyone joining Primetime News this evening. At a summit in Turkey, President Donald Trump threw a summit of NATO leaders into disarray earlier today as he demanded the United States cut trade ties with Spain and made renewed claims on Greenland, irking another NATO ally, Denmark. Speaking in the Turkish capital of Ankara, Trump called Madrid a quote-unquote terrible partner in NATO as he rallied against allies for not supporting the war on Iran and ordered Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to halt all trade with Spain. Here's more details.
Trump's remarks, also declaring the fragile ceasefire with Iran to be over, overshadowed a summit that European leaders had hoped would project unity and support for Ukraine and look past a series of rows that have threatened to tear the military alliance apart. Trump spoke alongside NATO Secretary Mark Rutte, who has assiduously tried to assuage his concerns over defense spending, Iran and Greenland, while lavishing praise on the president for bringing such issues to the fore.
Cut off all trade with Spain, please. Spoke to Italy. I didn't speak to Spain. Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. They don't participate, they don't pay. I don't want anything to do with Spain. Cut off all trade with Spain, please, including visits. Okay, we don't want anything to do. Watch them come running back. Oh, they'll come running back.
A source familiar with the talks later gave a more nuanced picture, saying Trump had not repeated his criticisms behind closed doors and instead wanted to keep the United States in NATO, saying, quote, "We want to remain with you," unquote. The White House did not immediately comment on Trump's remarks at the meeting.
Meanwhile, tensions in the Middle East have flared up once again as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has claimed responsibility for a large-scale retaliatory military operation targeting United States military assets in the Gulf region, announcing that 85 important American military installations were attacked in a joint missile and drone strike. In a statement published by Iranian state media, the IRGC accused the United States of violating a ceasefire agreement and conducting airstrikes on several coastal bases and civilian locations in the provinces of Hormuzgan and Mashhad during the early hours of the morning today.
The statement alleged that the United States launched the attacks in an attempt to overshadow what it described as a historic and unprecedented funeral procession attended by millions, held in honor of a slain leader and senior figures linked to the Islamic Republic. According to the IRGC, the operation was carried out jointly by its naval and aerospace forces as an initial response to what it termed American aggression. The Revolutionary Guard claimed that missile and drone attacks targeted key U.S. military facilities, including installations in Port Salman, the U.S. 5th Fleet region in Bahrain, and Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. The IRGC further asserted that the operation resulted in the destruction of 85 significant U.S. military installations. It also claimed that an American MQ-9 drone, which allegedly attempted to interfere with the operation, was shot down during the strikes. Earlier, U.S. Central Command announced that American forces have completed a new round of offensive strikes against Iran, targeting more than 80 locations in what Washington described as an immediate response to recent Iranian attacks on commercial vessels transiting the strategically important Strait of Hormuz. According to a statement released by CENTCOM, the strikes were carried out on the 7th of July and involved the use of precision-guided munitions against a broad range of military targets. The operation reportedly focused on Iranian air defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar installations, anti-ship missile capabilities, and more than 60 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps small boats operating in and around the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM said the objective of the strikes was to degrade Iran's ability to continue attacks against international maritime traffic and commercial shipping, moving through one of the world's most critical trade corridors. The U.S. military further accused Iran of recently attacking 3 commercial vessels navigating the strait. The vessels identified in the statement were Marshall Islands flagged tanker MT Al Rekayat, the Saudi Arabia flagged MT Vedyan, and the Liberia flagged MT Cyprus Prosperity. Describing the incidents as unwarranted aggression, CENTCOM said the attacks constituted a clear violation of an existing ceasefire agreement and represented a threat to freedom of navigation and international commerce. In its statement, CENTCOM emphasized that U.S. forces remain fully prepared to respond to any further violations of the agreement and pledged to continue holding Iran accountable if the terms of the ceasefire are not respected.
The road to FIFA World Cup 2026 glory is getting narrower and the drama is only getting bigger. The round of 16 delivered thrilling comebacks, penalty shootout, heartbreaks and moments of pure football magic as the final 8 teams booked their places in the quarterfinals.
Kenika Naratna has more details.
The final 8 teams heading into the quarterfinals of the 2026 FIFA World Cup were confirmed today following the conclusion of the round of 16 stage. Well, among them are defending champions Argentina, led by the evergreen Lionel Messi, who continues to stamp their authority on the global stage as they chase back-to-back World Cup titles. The final team to secure a place in the quarterfinals was Switzerland. Argentina's round of 16 clash against Egypt took place remained under Egyptian control until the 79th minute, even after Egypt had added a second goal in the second half to strengthen their grip on the contest. Now, however, the reigning champions produced a remarkable comeback. Final round of 16 encounter between Switzerland and Colombia was played in the early hours of today at the Vancouver Stadium in Canada. Despite more than 52,000 spectators packing the venue, neither side was able to break the deadlock during normal time. The contest was ultimately decided from the penalty spot, where Switzerland held their nerve to secure a 4-3 shootout victory to book their place among the tournament's final 8 teams. Complete. Attention turns to the quarterfinals, which will get underway the day after tomorrow. The opening quarterfinal will see former world champions France take on Morocco in what promises to be yet another blockbuster encounter. The match will be played at the Boston Stadium in the United States and is scheduled to kick off at 1:30 a.m. Sri Lanka time. Now, Sri Lanka's licensed broadcast rights holders for the FIFA World Cup 2026 is the Maharaja Media Network, with all matches available live on Sirasa TV and TV1 as the race for football's biggest prize gathers pace.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.